Hey procrastinators, I'm back with a video today, and this is just a for fun video. Not a design team video or anything like that, it's just a fun video. So today I am not really focusing on a particular technique, I guess, unless you call just mixing two different stamps from two different companies and playing with some shimmer powders, a technique, but that's what we're doing today. So I have this Simon Says stamp, Shine On stamp, and I wanted to mix it with a Unity stamp that has a moon. Now these are both red rubber stamps, so I can't see through them. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking the Shine On stamp and I'm stamping it on a piece of acetate, which is really hard to see on camera. And I have two Tim Holtz platforms, so to save me some time, I'm just swapping out the doors here. And I did some stamping off screen to line these up, but I just want to kind of show you that if you stamp your stamp on acetate to get the placement, you can get the placement easier with red rubber stamps. So what you would do here is stamp it and then see if it's lined up, and if it's not, then you move your stamp and then you stamp it again on the acetate, and you go through this whole process of trying to get it lined up because you can't see through the stamp. Obviously I did all that process off screen, so you don't have to see me stamp this like 5 times before I get it lined up right. So I'm just showing you here that it did line up where I wanted it. I wanted the back edge of the moon to line up exactly where the outside edge of the sun would be. And then I have another tip here. If you have this EK Success embossing powder tool and you hate how the brushes work, just unscrew that bottom piece, take a piece of felt, put it over the bottom, and rubber band it on. And now you can use it similarly to how you would use an embossing bag, except you're going to pounce it and the powder doesn't get all over your hands like an embossing bag would. It works so much better than how this tool is designed to be used. I know so many people get frustrated with those bristles and how the powder doesn't come out, it gets clogged on the top and all that stuff. So there's another tip for you. All right, here we go. Now we're going to actually make the card. So I am inking up the Vibes and Tribes stamp from Unity in some VersaMark ink. I'm just going to stamp that down really well. I am using Fabriano Artistico watercolor paper, so I want to make sure that I get a really good impression. Usually I would stamp that twice with the VersaMark to make sure that I get a good impression. I didn't, so I did go off screen and emboss this a second time, but just to save you having to watch me do that again, because you can't really see what I'm doing since I'm stamping in clear ink and white embossing powder on a white piece of paper. So I just did it the one time. I'm telling you I did it twice. So normally I would stamp that twice in the VersaMark and I get a much better embossed image. That's what I'm going to do with this. And I almost got ahead of myself here and stamped that up in the VersaMark, and I would have been really sad if I would have stamped this. So I am going to mask off this moon image. I use Avery removable ID labels. They're full sheet, 8.5 by 11 sheets. I just stamp those and then fussy cut out my image. This moon image is really delicate, so I actually didn't cut out all the pieces. I just cut out the bigger pieces. There are some like little dangly bits with like small little circles on them that would have been really hard to cut out and then put on my image. I didn't bother with those little pieces. I'm just gonna bother with the big like feathers and the images that are more important. We're just gonna mask those off, and then we're going to ink up my Shine On stamp with the VersaMark, and we're going to white heat emboss that. So I'm just going to make sure that I ink this up really, really well. And then we're going to stamp that down on the image. We're doing this so I don't have an eyeball in the middle of my moon and that kind of stuff. I'm going to make sure that I use that powder tool again. And then we're going to rub this really well. And then I do believe that I do show that I am going to ink this one up twice, just to make sure that I get that image on there really well. And yep, I do. I couldn't remember if I showed that or not. Sometimes you edit these videos and you don't remember what all you did and what all you cut out and that kind of stuff. So just inking that up again, making sure that I'm going to get a really nice impression this time, so I don't have to heat emboss it twice like I did the other one. All right, you can see that I did not clean my stamp very well. So I do have some light gray stamping there. Not going to be a problem because I'm using white embossing powder. If you were to use clear, that would be a problem. But since I am using white embossing powder, not a problem. I am using the Fine Detail embossing powder from WoW. So that is very helpful with the moon image that I did first. So now if you find that when you remove your mask from the moon and your embossing powder is kind of like flattened, it looks kind of smushed, just run your heat tool over it and that will shine back up and look okay again. Mine was kind of matte looking and smushed, so I just ran my heat tool over it again and it looked just fine. All right, so now I'm just going to use a combination of Nuvo shimmer powders and Lindy's Magicals, which are also shimmery. And I'd use some reds, oranges, yellows, and golds on the sun side. And then I used some blue, gold, and it's called Meteorite Showers from Nuvo on the moon side. But it's kind of like this dark gray, almost blackish kind of color. And has like purples and blues mixed in it. It's a really pretty powder. Now that's what I'm using on the moon side. My idea was to get obviously the sun colors on the sun side and some kind of like blue, glowy, dark colors on the moon side. So I'm just mixing up a bunch of different colors here, just sprinkling them all over the place. The sun side, I wanted the darker colors towards the middle of the sun, the middle of the page, and again I'm fading out towards lighter colors. Again, the same on the moon side. I wanted the darker colors in the center of the moon and the lighter colors towards the outer page. And then when I spray my water, I start off with a dry piece of paper and then I spray further away from it at first until the powders get wet, and then I start going closer to the page. If you start really close with your spray bottle, you're going to spray those powders off your page, and that is not what you want to do, obviously. And then I cannot leave well enough alone with these powders. I know a lot of people say just spray them and then let them do their thing. I can't do that. So a lot of times I will go in with a paintbrush and just kind of spread them around. So that is what I'm doing here. I do spray my papers very, very liberally. I often end up with puddles. It is the way that I get my pigments to move in the way that I want them to. If you find that you don't need so much water, well, you do you. But that is the way that I like to work with them. I spray very liberally and then I dab up the puddles before I heat set my my page. And I always heat set. It's just I am very impatient. So I'm just moving, excuse me, I'm moving things around here, getting things how I want it. And that moon in the center turned brown. And I was afraid it was going to happen because of the colors that I was using. But we are going to fix that here after I get the page looking how I want it. So I'm just dabbing up all those puddles, getting things mostly dry, not completely dry, but mostly dry. I'm gonna dab up or wipe up my mat because there's a lot of water underneath that page. And now we're gonna come in with that blue color. I don't remember what the blue color is called. Blue Blitz. And I'm just gonna put a little bit on my mat, mix it with some water, and then we're just gonna paint directly over that moon. And there are some floral bits towards the bottom of the moon. I'm trying to avoid those because I am going to paint those with my my Dr. P.H. Martin's watercolors, but I'm gonna do that off screen just to save some time. They're really tiny images. I really didn't do anything fancy with them, but fill them in with color. There was no shading or anything like that because the images are tinier than the end of my pinky. They are really, really tiny, or at least most of them were smaller than the end of my pinky. So there was really nothing special. I just filled them in with color. And then I decided that the blue on this on the moon was really bright compared to the rest of it. So I came in with that meteorite shower just to darken it up, give it a little bit different hue than the, so it more match with that side of the paper, the rest of the painting. And I'm just trying to color match a little bit better. Now, as you can see, that it is way more pigmented than the rest of that side. So we're going to fix that here in a minute. But I was just trying to get the tone of the color right. I guess that would be what it's called, the tone. I don't know. You'll have to let me know. I was trying to get that color right, and then we're just gonna dab that up to make it a lighter color. Then I had that pigment sitting off to the side there that I didn't want to just wipe up, so I'm just gonna splatter it all over my page here, just to give my my panel a little bit more interest. Just gonna splatter, 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 and then of course I decided that I needed a little bit more. I needed a little gold splatter, so I'm just gonna add a little bit of one of the golds that I had. I believe this one is Golden Sparkler. And just going to splatter a little bit of gold on here as well. And then once I decide that there is enough splatter, we will clean up the mess here and we will move on. Off screen, I'm going to cut these down with some Spellbinders A2 matting basic dies. I used both the A and the B set, one for my panel and one for a black matting layer. I'm going to use the Hello Sunshine stamp set from Simon Says Stamp, one for my outside greeting and one for the inside greeting here in a little bit. So I'm going to stamp this in VersaFine Clair in Nocturne, and this says Be the Sunshine, I believe. And I'm going to stamp this a couple times because I am stamping over the white heat embossing of the sun rays. So I want to make sure that I get a good impression. Plus, I want this to be fairly, excuse me, guys, fairly damp so I can heat emboss over it, because I'm going to use some holographic embossing powder from Ranger. So I just want to make sure that that sticks really well. So I usually stamp just twice when I'm using the Nocturne for heat embossing, just to make sure that it stays wet long enough. But because I was stamping over the heat embossing, I wanted to make sure that I filled in all those little areas, because the heat embossing is obviously raised up. Oh my goodness, I cannot talk. This little strip here was just a piece that I cut off the side of my panel, and so I decided to just add that in this inside. You've probably seen me do this before if you've watched my videos. If you haven't, then this is something that I commonly do, just to keep that little bit out of the trash. So this is another one of those greetings from that Hello Sunshine stamp set. I believe this one says, "You're the bright spot to my day," but we will find out here in a second. So I'm just going to stamp this with the VersaFine Clair and Nocturne as well. Get that stamped up, and that's only going to need one stamping, I believe. Yes, I think I'm just cleaning off my stamp there. All right. And then I'm going to move this panel up, and I'm going to take that sun image called Shine On, and we're going to stamp this just partially on the inside. I'm going to grab some Fossilized Amber and Oxide, because I felt that that matched that little strip pretty well. And I'm going to stamp that. And then, of course, I forgot to flip over my door for my stamp platform. So I picked it up and it was on the wrong side. So I just got to flip that around and pick that stamp up again. Now I'm going to grab that Fossilized Amber and we're going to stamp this partially on the inside. I got out of the habit of stamping the insides of my cards there for a while because I was just being lazy, but I really do enjoy decorating the insides of my cards. Because, well, as I've said before, I am not really a woman of many words. I love making cards, but I don't really like writing in the cards. So I feel like when I don't write very much, just like have a great birthday, having that stamping an extra little bit on the inside doesn't make it look so lame. So I'm just going to mat this panel on a piece of black cardstock. Like I said, I cut both this panel and that black cardstock with the Spellbinders A2 matting basic dies. And then I'm just going to set my stamp positioner on top of that until they dry. Of course, with the magic of YouTube editing, it doesn't look like I sat it on there very long at all, but trust me, it was on there for a couple minutes. And then we're just going to adhere this to the front of my card. Again, setting that stamp positioner on top so it dries nice and flat. Because this panel was a little bit warped, but it turns out nice and flat when I set my stamp positioner on it to dry. All right, so now we're just going to finish off this card with some Pink and Main crystal gems. These are super pretty. I'm not going to show you putting them all on. I chose some light blue ones for the light blue side and some orange ones for the orange side. I hope that you enjoyed my card today. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. The supplies will be in the description box below, as well as my social media links. If you enjoyed this video, I would love it if you gave me a thumbs up and subscribed if you haven't already. And as always, have a great day.